Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Ali, Coram, and Ed Carson with the breakdown of the action in today's session. Tuesday, April 2nd, where we saw a nice recovery off lows for the major indexes today after some spiking Treasury yields, especially at the open, and yesterday, some weakness to start the day. Looking, maybe we can see a silver lining here today, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent close, especially on the major indexes. We'll just have to see how that goes. I want to take a look at three stocks that look pretty resilient: Meta Platforms, Uber, and Eli Lilly.
Okay, well, we'll get to those three stocks, but first let's take a look at the major indexes. The Nasdaq today closing down a little less than 1%. We have the S&P 500 down some 0.7%. The Dow today off by 1%, and the Russell 2000, the hardest hit today, down about 1.9% by session's close. So not getting as much of a bounce as some of the other major indexes here, Ed, with that interest rate sensitivity that we have with small caps. But elsewhere, it seems like there was some encouraging action despite it being a down day.
Yeah, we closed near session highs. The Nasdaq and Dow at least were trying to get back toward their. Yeah, the Nasdaq reclaimed the 21-day line, so that's nice. The S&P never got there. A lot of leading stocks, especially some of the names, Nvidia, which is sort of like the stock of the rally, the stock of AI. That bounced off the 21-day line. It looks perfectly normal. It looks like it's starting to work on a base after an enormous run. So that looks healthy, almost constructive. I think that given that where Treasury yields are, and Treasury yields have moved up to as you were saying, a 2024 high, it did come on. And one reason why the market came off lows because the yields came off highs.
Yeah.
The 2-year yield actually fell today. So I mean, the odds of a rate cut in June actually rose today. So I think there's stronger economic growth in the U.S., stronger in China. So you're just seeing that come up. It's going to be a bit of a headwind, but maybe we'll see some bases form. Maybe that'll happen. It's just that you have to realize maybe they'll form, maybe they won't. Maybe we'll fall below the 50 line, or maybe your stocks won't. So you have to just be keeping that stuff in mind as you're sort of evaluating what to do in over the next few days.
Okay, very well put there, Ed. Let's take a look at XLE because we are continuing to see strength in the energy sector.
Yeah, it's hard to find a place to get into something like this. A lot of they've just been sort of running right up. But yeah, energy, crude oil prices hit their highest level since October. Definitely moving up nicely. So they're definitely this was the clear strong spot of the market today.
Yes. Let's take a look quickly at a couple of other areas. Here's XHB, the home builders coming down because this is another area impacted by interest rates, Ed.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you have to be impressed by how strong the housing sector has been, given that yields have been rising all year. I mean, really,
Right.
there's been ups and downs. This is really impressive.
Yeah, it is. So down to that 21-day line, but an impressive run, no doubt. Check in on chips and software. Here's chips like NVIDIA coming off lows after nearly touching the 21-day line, and IGV, the software ETF, also off lows. This looks like some leading software stocks that I can think of, but holding within the base here and closing off lows, although it wouldn't take much to undercut a lot of the lows of the base, maybe not that low from 221. But we're at a key crossroads here, Ed. We could either see a break of a trend line or a breakdown here for
Yeah,
software.
I think software, you're absolutely right. You've got it. Those are the things. It's like it would not take much to see this breaking down. And then we'd look back in hindsight and say, yeah, it was clear it was coming down. We get a good day or two. And boy, it's like, sure, why were you guys so scared? Look at that. It was just setting up. Yeah. So take it day by day. But we're definitely at a point where you really want to be engaged with the market.
Absolutely. Okay, let's take a look at some notable stock action today. Meta up 1.2% by the end of the day, closing just a couple bucks shy of the 500 level, an area we've been keeping a close eye on. And then if you take a look at the weekly chart, we are getting a first test of support at the 10-week line. So,
Yeah.
in an interesting spot.
Yeah, you could probably use 500 or last week's high or some kind of trend line. You could probably find a spot, especially if the market's picking up to get into that. Yeah, trend line's right around the 500 level. bouncing off the 10-week line. One nice thing with the market sort of going sideways is that anything consolidating, the RS lines aren't getting a knock. Uh,
Mm.
a week and a half, it needs the end of next week, but it would have a new base perhaps. So this is one of the big leaders out there. We haven't talked about it too much just because there haven't been many chances to get into it. But huge winner, really since for the whole rally from the end of 2022, and maybe offering another opportunity pretty soon.
Yeah. Okay. Also, potentially offering another opportunity here pretty soon. Actually, a pretty similar look to this weekly chart here in some respects, and that is Uber. We've got some support at the 10-week line, a consolidation around a round number. Ed, I do have a position in this stock since before the follow through day in November. So maybe we're getting a new base here too for Uber.
Yeah, we've basically been treating 8214 as a pseudo flat base or de facto one. And after this week, it would have an official one. So it would start showing up on market search. Yeah, you get above that, definitely a breakout, or you can do some kind of short trend line or use, there's various ways where you could get into this. I think it'd be nice to see the market show some strength. Definitely would
Right.
want to get this over the 21-day line. But yeah, this one's holding up very nicely.
Okay. Well, we'll keep it on our watch lists and uh good volume profile here. It looks like as well, which, if we could see an increase in volume on the bounce, even better. Okay, last but not least, let's take a look at Eli Lilly, LLY, another stock consolidating just below a round number. I think I see a theme here, Ed, a round number trading sideways, probably on the weekly chart. Yep, some a test here at the 10-week line. It's still down on the week, but holding above the 10-week line. I must disclose, I'm required to disclose a position in this as well, but another stock setting up, Ed.
Yeah, and this is another one that'll have a flat base officially after this week. You could probably use some kind of trend line or recent high. You could try to find a way to sneak into it a little early, but definitely, again, showing some strength here after a nice run. Right where you'd want it to, the 21-day line, the 10-week line. It's definitely institutions are supporting it at places where you'd like it to. And so there are opportunities. You just got to be going through them. I think the key is that you don't want to wait until like, oh, it surges 4%, 5%. And now it's like, well, do I want to buy this done? Or what about this? What about, you want to be paying attention to these stocks now. They're setting up. They may not be actual. Some of them may fall apart. And that's the way it'll go. But you want to be ready. So when they do trigger some of these things, you can set some alerts, and all those. And then when things get going, you'll have already decided, hey, if this crosses here, I want to be taking part in that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that same concept can be applied to, what we're seeing in the energy sector. It seems like I'm not picking on anyone on IABD Live, but in the audience, it seems like once you start, it's only once we've started to see the software stocks potentially have bad breaks or shakeout type days where then the focus isn't, all right, well, let's look at the energy sector. What can I buy there? Well, those are all extended now.
Yeah.
So it's that conundrum where once you see too much strength, well, like you said, you should really be focusing now on the ones that are setting up and have been digesting instead of running, perhaps.
No, I think that's a great point. This is why you run wide screens and let the screens tell you what's sort of setting up. Look at some of those sector ETFs, see how they're doing. It's like, oh, wait a second, why is that turning up? Maybe I should start taking a little closer look. So, yeah, definitely want to be finding those turns as they're starting, not as we're down the straightaway.
Yeah. Well said. Okay, everyone, that is it for today. And Meta, which we looked at, and maybe some of the other ones, I think Uber is on leaderboard too. But we are going to have our quarterly leaderboard scorecard webinar here in just a little bit at 4:30 Eastern. So we will see you there to talk about quarterly performance for the leaderboard portfolio. Check out leaderboard.investors.com and click on the top banner message to join that webinar here shortly. So we will see you then. And we'll also see you back tomorrow morning on IABD Live, investors.com/IABD Live for all the details on that. See you there. And then we've got your back tomorrow after the close.